Good evening and welcome back to the Lompoc City Council meeting. For the two of you who were here at 6, thanks for coming early and staying late. And could we have a report from closed session, please?
Thank you, Mayor. There are 3 items. All 3 were discussed, and the only reportable action was direction to file a civil action to abate a dog nuisance problem that is occurring, and we will take care of that.
Okay, good things. And now, the invocation. And before we start that, I'd like to introduce the Scouts of Troop 394. Everybody up. Come on. Who are here working on their Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge and learning about local government in action. And for our invocation, Kate Black. Where are you, Kate?
Good evening. Thank you. This is a prayer from the Baha'i writings for a prayer for America. O thou kind Lord, this gathering is turning to thee. These hearts are radiant with thy love. These minds and spirits are exhilarated by the message of thy glad tidings. O God, let this American democracy become glorious in spiritual degrees, even it has aspired to material degrees, and render this just government victorious. Confirm this revered nation to upraise the standard of the oneness of humanity, to promulgate the most great peace, to become thereby most glorious and praiseworthy among all the nations of the world. O God, this American nation is worthy of thy favors and is deserving of thy mercy. Make it precious and near to thee through thy bounty and bestowal. Thank you.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have to turn our microphone on. We have several presentations, and then after our consent calendar, I will be reordering the agenda so that item number 7 will come before item number 5. And our first presentation this evening is from the Senior Needs Assessment Survey from the Area Agency on Aging. Welcome.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. Sue and Joanne are helping with some big pictures. I also provided you with a copy of the PowerPoint that normally I would do, but I can't do that in 15 minutes. And so we're just going to zip right through and get to the heart of the matter. Earlier this year, the Area Agency on Aging conducted an assessment of the needs of older people. We asked senior citizens what did they perceive their needs were, and over 2,000 seniors responded through emails, through surveys left at senior centers. We had 128 responses from here in Lompoc, and we tabulated those responses, and the detail of that is in this PowerPoint. I also brought a couple of copies of the complete report. But the first question we asked seniors was things I need help with now and in the future. And as you can see, understanding Medicare, meals and food, and home and yard maintenance were the top needs in Lompoc Valley. Very similar to the needs of seniors all over. Thank you. I can't even see it myself.
Take your time. Just you have to speak into the microphone, or people at home will wonder why your lips are moving, but they don't hear anything.
Okay. And the other needs were finding friends and social activities, legal affairs and advanced care planning, homemaker chore, personal care, available transportation, shopping and errands, affordable housing, and emotional support and counseling. There are a couple of remarkable things about the top 10 needs identified in Lompoc. First is meals and food. We haven't seen that in the top 10 of needs for seniors in over a decade. So we're quite concerned that we see it in the top two, in the top. And if we further stratify the survey results and look at just what the low-income seniors in Lompoc said, food and nutrition was number one. You also see some indications of people wanting to stay in their homes and needing help to do that. That's a primary concern of seniors, wanting to be independent and living in their homes. And the survey results confirm what we all know if we have any older relatives or we are a little bit old ourselves. And the other striking thing about the top 10 is that several regard social activities and the need to get out of the house, to meet new people, concerns about their mental health. We don't normally see senior citizens responding that fashion. You and I might say that person needs to meet more people, needs to get out of the house, seems depressed, how can we get them engaged? But you very rarely see seniors saying that, and that's another remarkable part about the survey. So in the future was the second part of that question, and number one on that was available transportation. I think there's a clear understanding by older people that they're not going to be able to drive their cars forever. And we're all happy to see that. So it's incumbent upon our community to provide the available transportation so we help seniors not be isolated in their homes and be able to get where they need to go, bottom line. And then the remaining of this top needs in the future are basically a reflection of the what they perceive they need now, but in a little bit different order. Okay? Oh, my assistants are great. What are their concerns? We asked them, what are the things that concern you? And the top concern was staying physically fit, affordable health care, and concern about fall prevention type activities. Amazingly, 43% of the senior residents in Lompoc said staying physically fit is a major concern. I can honestly say that that is should be an accurate concern, because being able to stay in your home, not having falls, is dependent on staying physically fit. And the message, the government has been giving this message to seniors and to all of us for decades, and the message has been received. Second is affordable health care. Well, even though Medicare is a wonderful program and people are concerned about understanding it all, and we have programs to help with that, health care is still a significant part of seniors' budgets. I think there's a myth out there that Medicare takes care of all the medical costs of senior citizens, and any of us who are Medicare beneficiaries know that that's not the case. So there's still significant health costs for people who are elderly. Just simply all the things that Medicare doesn't cover, like dental, long-term care, and lots of other things as well. Falling is the number 3 major concern. How to prevent falls. Everyone knows that someone falls, breaks their hip, and they're 90 or 85 years of age, and within a year and a half, they're gone. The staying fit part, the rehabilitation efforts of Medicare are all geared to making that statement false, and we hope people recognize that it does not have to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then it goes on, financial security, money to live on. You know, people are living easily to their 90s, and financial planners nowadays tell you to plan to live to be 100. I mean, that's a pretty scary thought. And if we had any inflation at this point, we would be even more frightened. But this group of seniors can remember when we had almost a decade of 8 to 10 to 12% inflation annually. What are seniors concerned about in the future? A third of the respondents said Alzheimer's and dementia. That's a very real fear, because if you know the statistics, which most people do, those over 85 years of age, 1/2 of that population has some form of either early or some stage of dementia or Alzheimer's. So it's a pretty scary statistic that we hope can be solved in maybe my generation. Fear, concern about being dependent on others, concern about still affordable health care, and falling, and nursing home placement. I've never met a senior who said, oh, I can't wait to get to that nursing home. Everybody wants to stay home. We want them to be safe when they're home. There's a slight distinction there that we want to make. Thank you. Okay, I forgot to tell you. The blue dot is the Lompoc. Things that make it difficult. So we ask people, what makes it difficult for you to get help? Again, in Lompoc, don't know who to ask, can't afford it, and don't qualify. And importantly, prefer not to ask for help. I think we can all agree that's why, we find seniors all the time who are not doing well in their homes. They really don't want to be found. They're concerned that if they are found, they will be placed somewhere, and that's a great fear of theirs. So don't know who to ask. We produce senior resource directories. We have committees in Lompoc. We meet, we prepare documents, information guides. We try and make information available about programs and services to help people. And we hope that people pick this up, or people see it on the websites, and we can get the information out from a trustworthy source where we're not trying to sell them anything, whether it's Medicare information or how to find home care that's reliable and trustworthy. Okay. We also asked seniors, okay, what services are you already using? And in Lompoc, 1/3 of our respondents said they're using the senior center. Next time I do the survey, I hope to see 100% of the respondents saying they use the senior center. People are using home care. People are coming for the nutrition programs that we have in the community. People are also getting some of the caregiver support services. So it's a beginning reflection that people are beginning to understand that there are programs and services here in town, and that they are designed to help them stay home. I'd like to just close and say that I hope that I've made this presentation, and at this senior commission meeting, lots of good discussion about how we as a community can work together to better address the needs of seniors. A second part of that is I'd like to say that you have a fabulous senior center here. It is a focal point for all these senior services, where seniors and their caregivers and their families know that they can go and access services, access credible, reliable information. The senior center is a very valuable resource, and it's great to see what Sue and everyone is doing there. It's really an outstanding senior center, and I have to say I've been visiting senior centers for over 40 years, and this really is an exceptional senior center. And I just want to close by saying I look forward to working with the city representatives, and make sure that we meet the needs of seniors in the community, and I'm open for any questions that you might have.
Councilmember Lingle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad you put up that last board there, because I was making notes and I says, we provide this, we provide this, we provide this. So many things that we are currently providing were addressed as needs to the seniors. So what I get out of this, and I'm glad to see that 30% or more are using that, I guess we need to do a better job of getting the information out to these people, because food, socializing, the community service, transportation is available, the fitness that is provided out there, tax services, Social Security information. There's so many services are provided at our community center, senior center. It's just a matter, I guess, getting the information out to these people that are not aware of it. So my question to you is, how can we, as a city, help you and your organization get that information out?
Well, I think we're going to work with the Senior Commission. We've already set out some initial ideas on how to promote that the information is here, that the Senior Center is here, and that it is available to provide services. I think the key is your Senior Center, and of course, using whatever other means we have in the city to, whether it's putting information in the buses, including it in your utility bills. I mean, there's just a myriad of ways that we can get that message out. And the important part of that is we have to do it more than once.
Sure, yeah.
This is, the most common complaint I get is when people call our information office is, I didn't know you existed. I wish I'd found you earlier, or something like that. And, it's just a matter of you read the newspaper or you listen to the television, which is the most effective medium with seniors is TV. And they weren't looking for it that day. And I often, people have probably tired of me saying, but there is a reason that Tide does commercials day in and day out on television. It's to imprint that on our minds, and that's really what we need to be doing. There is help available. Find it at your senior center.
And maybe this is a question for Sue, but you may be able to answer it as well. I know Santa Barbara County puts out a wonderful colored brochure on all the different senior services available. Is that available at our community? That is available.
It is available, and I'm proud to say that we published that document with a huge committee.
Yeah.
And I'm also proud to say that in January we will be introducing that document in Spanish.
Okay.
And so we're going to try and reach another part of our community that doesn't know about programs and services. And thank you for the compliment about the director.
Well, I didn't know it was you, but
It's a great committee that we...
My mother has a copy right by her bed. So.
Glad to hear it.
Well, thanks for all the work you do.
Your
Thank
mother, you have it. Just retired.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Thank you.
Nope, okay. Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you for your presentation. What I noted is in your conclusion and recommendations, just as Councilmember Lingle mentioned, is continuing offering access to the programs and services it already provides, but communicate the availability. But I think that what this is going to help me do in my work with the Community Action Commission is continuing to offer access to these programs is becoming difficult, specifically the senior nutrition program that they run, which is a huge program here in Lompoc, and the funding for that is very challenging. And so what I'm really excited to see is we have some data that we can send off to potential funders to show that there is still a need and there's that perception of need, and that's really priceless. So I wanted to say thank you for that, and I plan on communicating that with and talking to Fran Foreman about that.
Yes, and we have made these information and the report available to all of the contractors. But it is, as I said earlier, startling to see food and nutrition in the top. It's very shocking. Thank you.
Councilmember Holmdahl.
Well, I'm real pleased to see the information going out. But one of the things is to get the seniors to understand it's out there, because they all kind of want to take care of themselves. My mother was one of those that she kept going strong until she's 92. Only thing she couldn't hear, so she wouldn't go places. But she is involved. She watched TV, and they do watch TV all the time. And so everything you can get there for them. And so for the ones that are coming up that haven't got in the 80s yet or the late 70s, however you want to start, that education coming in early makes a big, especially having the deal around their neck. And you run into that too. There's ladies that don't want that there. I'm not going to fall. And I think this is one of the things that we all have to educate the seniors on, is that is one of the best items they have just for their own self-protection.
Thank you. I certainly agree. Anything we can do to make sure our seniors are safe in their homes is our top priority. Thank you for the opportunity this evening.
Thank you very much. And next, we'll have a presentation from our representatives from the Economic Development Committee, and give us an update on the current and upcoming efforts, tasks, and objectives of the committee. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and citizens. I'm Steve Pepe, the Chair of the Economic Development Committee, and with me is Teresa Galvan, who is the Economic Development Director and Assistant City Manager, and currently the Interim City Manager, and Janelle Osborne, who's our Vice Chair. And so in terms of our committee, you've seen the slide before, but that's the listing of who we are, who's on the executive committee, and who are associate members as well. Our current membership, we have a number of 2-year commitments which are expiring. I think the number is 4. We've had 1 resignation of a current member. We are still looking for new committee member applicants. It's available online and in person at the City Hall, and there's the website. I think one of the things we will do is come back in 2014 and suggest changing the term from 4 to 3 years. You folks all, except for the mayor, think in terms of 4 years. I have a feeling, though I can't quantify it, that to some people 4 years is just a little too long. And it's like being in business. You never know who doesn't come through your front door, why that is. When they do come through your front door, you know if they're happy or unhappy, or you can go look at Yelp and lots of other places. But the people who never show up, you don't know what the reason is. And nobody's quite said that to me, but I'm getting the feeling, and other members of the committee are getting the feeling, that 4 years may be just a little too long and people would feel more comfortable with 3 years. So we're going to talk about it some more, but I wanted to give you a heads up that we may come back to you and ask you to change our charter. We're continuing striving to get greater ethnic and industry diversity. We're making progress. However, it's quite slow and not where we'd like it to be. For example, we have nobody on our committee in the lodging industry. We have nobody on our committee in the restaurant industry, though a number of us in our other lives have worked in restaurants, so we're not unfamiliar with that industry. And in terms of ethnic diversity, we really do not have we don't have any Hispanic representation, though we have 1 potential new committee member, and we need to do more in that area. So we're sensitive to, we're working on it, and we would ask you and anybody else who knows folks in those areas that would be interested to please put in an application. I'm now going to turn it over to Teresa, who's going to go through a number of the economic statistics for us.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, audience, and viewers. The next part of the presentation includes the review of our economic indicators and then activities that staff and I have been involved in and committee activities. The first set of economic indicators that we're looking at are annual sales tax revenue. And here we have from 2006 up until through 2012-13 annual sales tax revenue. You've seen most of the history here in a previous presentation, but I do want to share with you that as of October 25th, we received preliminary figures for the fiscal year 2012-13, and while our financial audit is not complete, the results do show from those preliminary figures a 10% increase in collections of sales tax revenue compared with fiscal year 11-12, and that also exceeds our pre-2008 peak of $4.04 million by 3%. So We are pleased to see in the last several years a continued increase in sales tax revenue, and for 2012-13 we have a 10% increase. So we received over $4 million in sales tax revenue and a 10% increase over last year. Another indicator that we look at and share with you is our annual transient occupancy tax revenue. And again, we have from 2006-07 through 2012-13. And our preliminary figures that we have for 2012-13 is the new data we have for you today. And again, our financial audit is not concluded, but these preliminary results do indicate a 15.8% increase in revenue over the fiscal year 11-12. So we are pleased to see that annual TOT increasing. It's $1.3 million for 2012-13. The previous year was $1.1 million. The amount is still below the peak collections of fiscal year 2010-11, but it is trending in the right direction, so we are pleased to see that. Annual property tax revenue we have here, and the new data is our preliminary figures for 2012-13 that are in. And what we are seeing is actually a 0.38% decrease in the revenue from the previous fiscal year. And that is, I talked to our management services director about that, and that can be accounted for because of the loss in tax increment revenue that went down with the dissolution of RDA and other offsets to that. So it's a minor decrease. It's it amounts to, I think, $13,000 decrease, 0.38% in property taxes for fiscal year 12-13. In the area of capital investment, this is when a business comes in to pull its building permits, they are asked to give us a value of their project. So this chart reflects the value that is invested, the capital investment invested in our community through projects and building permit process. So we have 2012 here, 12-13, fiscal year 2012-13 shows we had more than $39 million invested in our community through capital investments in the building permit process. And in the first quarter, or from July 2013 through November 2013, we have $9.2 million that has been invested in our community through this process. So pleased to see that trending upward with activity. And then unemployment. When we last shared with you data on unemployment, we had figures through May of 2013. So we have new data here for June, July, and August. In May, we were at our low of 10% for our community. It did increase slightly over the summer, which is typical, and all other communities also see a slight increase. It has to do with education, school being out. Typically that causes that trend to happen. So we went from 11.3% in June, back down to 12, and then back up into 11.3 in August. This information was obtained from the Workforce Investment Board for Santa Barbara County. And here you can see the city of Lompoc and all other cities in Santa Barbara County from January, which is the red bar on the bottom of each municipality, to August. And you can see that unemployment has been decreasing from nearly 15% down to 11% from January to August. So it is going in the right direction. There still is considerable work to be done here. We are all aware that we still have the highest unemployment rate in the county, so we have more work to do in this area. Now getting into the activities that we have been up to in this reporting period from July through November. We have this broken down and report to you in areas and segments that we have been working in. For our industrial park area, our airport, and areas of technology, we're pleased that Epic Cooling opened in this period. Epic Cooling is a berry vegetable cooling facility, warehouse, and administrative offices that total approximately 72,000 square feet. So that opened, all 4 phases, in October, and it's a very nice facility. So if you haven't seen that, that is in our industrial park area. Followed up on 3 different leads in this area, and we had several conference calls and follow-up with developers of a spaceport in New Mexico, a hotel conference center retailtainment developer, and a commercial real estate consulting firm. And this is regarding the 90-acre development, the property next to Allen Hancock College. And this is some of the research that we have done at council's request to develop a request for proposals, or in our case, we have, after doing this research, determined that it would be best to do a request for qualifications for the development of this 90-acre parcel, and have started on that paperwork to get that process going, the development of the request for qualifications for that project. We continue to support Ventura County Airport's bid to be one of 6 FAA, Federal Aviation Administration designated UAV test sites, and keep in touch with them to see how that process is going. They should know more by the end of the year about which 6 facilities will be designated. I attended the Futures Forum, which was hosted by the Northern Santa Barbara County Economic Alliance, as well as many members of our Economic Development Committee, and we also sponsored this event. Lee Rosen from SpaceX was one of the keynote speakers at this event, and he talked about the launch of the Falcon 9, which happened here in our community on September 29th, and he had fabulous video. The audience was very pleased with it and excited by it. I think actually several council members were there as well. And I'm also involved with the UCSB Economic Forecast on their board of directors, so we asked Lee Rosen to come and speak at the annual event we do in the spring with UCSB, and he did graciously agree to do that as long as they don't have a launch. So I'm very excited to tout the SpaceX here in our backyard and their accomplishments and innovation. And I'm involved with, as are many members of the Economic Development Committee and Econ NSBC, and staff, part of the planning team for the Agricultural Summit we are looking to have here in our community in hopefully the spring. We continue to work on that planning, and I would like to thank Joanne Plummer for stepping up and participating in that committee while I have been doing the interim duty activities. So thank you, Joanne. In the area of retail, continue to follow up with various brokers on property and leads in that area. We had 6 small businesses that opened in this period. There were 2 leads in particular that we continue to follow up on. In the area of downtown, we also had a couple of different leads that we continue to work with and had considerable follow-up with. And the sidewalk project that was approved for the east side of the Lilly Building, that would be the west side of 8th Street from Ocean to Walnut. That project is ready to move forward. However, we have decided to go ahead and wait till after the holidays to start the project so that the businesses will not be inconvenienced during the holiday shopping season. But that is ready to move forward in the new year. In the area of housing, met with the 5 different developers and followed up with 10 different developers from single-family housing to multifamily housing in this period. We had 5 different restaurant leads. Of those, we've had 2 of them that we've had several meetings and follow-ups with, so considerable correspondence with 2 of the 5 leads, and also have shared with them information about our economic development loan program. Wild West Pizza and Grill has replaced West Side Pizza, so that is a change in ownership there. And the very exciting news for us in this past period is Applebee's opened on September 30th. So Apple American Group invested approximately $1 million in the remodeling of the building and the construction and the opening of the restaurant. They have had a wait ever since they've been opened, and they've created more than 140 jobs for Lompoc residents, so truly a success, and the community has been very excited to have this new restaurant open. We've had 2 expansion leads on different wineries, and La Montaña Winery opened in this period. We've worked with 2 different resort hotel leads and have had numerous meetings and follow-up on one of those leads in particular that is moving forward. Recreation is one of the initiatives that we have in our economic development strategic plan to maximize the use of the recreation amenities we have here in Lompoc. So to that effect, we were reporting on the activities of this period. As you're aware, the OH Off-Highway Vehicle Grant for nearly $1 million that we have received from the state. An MOU with a nonprofit group that we'll be working with was approved by council 2 weeks ago, so that continues to move forward, and we can now enter into our contracts with the state to receive the funding. The mayor and I have met with a developer of a sports complex on this last period. Staff and I had a post-event recap with the dog show organizers. This is a very important annual event for our community, and we wanted to do a recap and ensure that we continue to see that event successfully held in our community. The Snack Shack at the Aquatic Center, you've heard a lot of talk about that, and we have quite a bit to report on how that has moved along since we last talked to you. And there's another area that we have explored as we've worked with one of our Economic Development Committee members, Don Palmerville, and the recreation staff have been working very closely together on this. And the Recreation Division is preparing a bid for food vending machines at the Aquatic Center, the Anderson Recreation Center, and possibly the Dick DeWeese Community and Senior Center. And we would realize a percentage of the gross sales from these machines. So that is one spin-off from the Snack Shack development. As far as the Snack Shack at the Aquatic Center is going to be held, it's proposed to be held in one of the classrooms that would be renovated to accommodate this snack area. And staff met with potential contractors in early November and the County Health Department to discuss the plans. The County Health Department came back to us with a list of specifications and needs for the project. The group has met and is committed to continue with this project, but they do expect a longer timeline now to meet the needs of the health department and look to have this project completed by summer swim session or possibly spring break. So that is the update on the Snack Shack. And at the next council meeting, December 17th, we'll come to you with a report and an update on the Bike Skills Park and the Kids Motor Park, which have both been underway in the last year, so we'll be giving you an update then. And good news, the Department of Finance has approved final purchases that we'll be making for the Aquatic Center and the Dick DeWeese Community and Senior Center that had been put on hold through the dissolution of RDA, redevelopment areas. So we will now be purchasing in 2014. We are allowed to purchase bleachers for the Aquatic Center and the audio-video equipment needed for the Dick DeWeese Community and Senior Center, as well as a storage unit. So we'll be able to make those final investments in those facilities. Other activities, we have worked with the chamber, met with them on ideas to gather more information for marketing and strategic planning purposes, and we'll be bringing those ideas back to council on December 17th for an amendment in their contract. I've worked with and participated in a tour of ROP programs at Lompoc High School, met with the Small Business Development Center representative regarding plans for 2014, and ideas include workshops as well as office hours here at City Hall. I was also appointed to the Workforce Investment Board for Santa Barbara County in this period, and I'm pleased to participate on that consortium with several other members of our community from Lompoc. So we have very good representation on that county board now from our city. And many of us on the committee, staff, the city attorney, the chamber have worked on the Lompoc Tourism Improvement District, which you have before you tonight, to establish that tourism improvement district. So that's been an ongoing effort. And I also gave a presentation to the National Association of Acting and Retired Federal Employees on all of the activities that we have been doing, as well as city activities while in the interim capacity. And we amended the ordinance for home occupation permits to allow for cottage food operator permits, and I know that our committee chairman, Steve Pepe, are Vice Chair General Osborne will talk about that a little bit more. But I do have a photo here of Katie Rounds, who was the first person to apply for the cottage food operator permit, and here she is with her biker spice that she can now produce out of her home and sell throughout the Tri-County area. And at this point, I'd like to turn it back to our Chairman, Steve Pepe.
Thanks, Teresa. At our last report, we went through our project tracking workbook and the additional meetings we have in our standing committees. And rather than go through that again, since you've all seen it once, we've got the copies that we're handing out that show the updates, the various projects we're working on, and where we're going on that. And so we've put these as an addendum to our report rather than putting them up on the screen, since we've been through them once with you. In terms of our project update, we've already talked about the cottage industry legislation and how it was passed unanimously. We do need to keep pushing this issue, and one way to do it is to publicize it in terms of people who apply and approvals, and we should add it to the city website with contact information, because we think it's going to provide a significant opportunity for our citizens to help develop industry and help develop jobs. On the dog show, which we've already talked about, it was suggested that one of the things we might want to do to make the dog show more enjoyable to the participants and others would be to hook it up with a wine tasting event. So we talked to the Rotary folks, Bob Manning, and talked to the folks in the wine ghetto and elsewhere in the wine industry. And during the 4 days of the dog show across the street in the Boys and Girls Center, which is unoccupied during that time of the year, we're going to set up Rotary's going to set up wine tasting events with different wineries on each of the 4 nights, and they'll also have the opportunity to sell wine, which to those of us in the business, it's fine to do wine tastings, but you don't pay the bills on tastings and you really need the ability to sell. So we think it's going to be a big win-win for both the dog show folks, and I hope others will come, as well as the Rotary. This is going to be in addition to the regular wine tasting that the Rotary does. I think it's in January or February. And from the wine industry point of view, you're going to have the ability to be exposed to a lot of people who are not citizens of our area, who travel and can showcase your wines, and it may lead on to more sales in other areas. We're trying to work with the Parks and Rec funds on their project wish list to see how we can help them with grants and where their current funds are, so we don't duplicate our efforts. We're currently waiting till the Parks and Rec Department prioritizes their list so we can focus in on it with them. The Planning Commission has requested our help on reviewing the sign ordinance, and for those in the business world, this is one thing that drives business people crazy, is the sign ordinance. And those who remember what happened in Los Olivos about a year ago can understand how it can be very vexing to especially small businesses. So the Planning Commission asked us to help and give them feedback. We're doing that. The Lompoc Hotel Investment Business District, which was the name we're using, but now see that it's called the LTID, is on the agenda for later. We're concerned about who's going to be on the board of the nonprofit, whether there are going to be any institutional positions and non-hotel positions on there. We're also concerned about what the criteria is going to be for the project to be selected for funding. I just had a copy of the management agreement, which I assume you'll approve tonight. I read through it. It doesn't address any of those issues. There is one paragraph on working with the economic development director, but other than that, it doesn't say how they're going to decide who's on the board, and it doesn't say how the funds are going to be dispersed. I did notice that the city has the right, with or without cause, to terminate the agreement on 60 days' notice. So there is some protection there, but the concern is if it's all hotel people and they follow their mantra of heads in beds, you're going to get one way the money is going to be dispersed, which will be entirely different if you had representatives who are not in the hotel industry and if you had institutional positions. And institutional positions, we're talking about people like in the Rotary or the Elks or people in the hospital district, things who have a broader view of what's going to benefit Lompoc. And again, the hotels are all, I think, all in the city, and there are things that are going to occur up in the Village, the Mesa, out in the Santa Rita Hills, which should be supported, though the relationship to the hotels might not be as direct as the hotel folks would like. So that's our concerns about it, and I'll speak later when we get to that part of the agenda. In terms of the project updates, Janelle will take that over.
Thank you, Steve. So we've been very busy with lots of interesting things. One of the benefits of being on the committee is when council can't make something, we get requested. And one of the events that happened recently was the Parks Forward project put on by the state, had a state park forum that they had in several cities. The closest one for Santa Barbara County was actually in SLO. So we had a member attend, and it was very interesting to hear what's being done, why they were having the forum, and gave an opportunity to the participants to speak to things. So we made sure to discuss the La Persima Mission State Park in our own backyard, talk to it being the jewel of the mission system and how important it is. And then also, because they asked for it, in discussion of supporting the funding of these parks and changes that needed to be put in place, mentioned Lompoc's successful private and public models being used here in Lompoc, which they were very interested in. Anybody wishing to see what those forums entailed can go to the Park Forward website and watch any of the meetings they have had across the state, or look at the one from SLO and notice that we were the only community in Santa Barbara County who had a representative in attendance. So that was an interesting observation from the attendee, because there was no other opportunity in our area for Santa Barbara to have a county to have a voice. The city tagline, we presented you with a few ideas and got your feedback, but we have since had feedback from several local organizations, so we are reevaluating the earlier recommendations and will submit some new concepts in early 2014. Hancock Public Safety Training Complex continues to be high on our list of the potential that it brings to Lompoc. The college has received the keys to the facility and are working out the kinks, and classes will begin in spring of 2014 at the Lompoc campus. Recently, Level 3, which is a nationwide company that provides fiber optic and broadband data, has come to the city of Lompoc looking to get input on companies that are interested in, as in layman's terms might be best seen as, opening up that internet pipeline locally. As we all know, they came through about 15 years ago and laid all of this wonderful pipeline for data to come through, but there's no off-ramp for local businesses to tap into it. So they are reaching out to Lompoc businesses to find out who's interested. So if you are a business that is interested in having access to high-speed data, NASA, the geodata company that's here, anybody at the hospital, any business, large or small, please get in contact with Rick Gracek here at the city. He is the liaison between Level 3 and the city of Lompoc, and he is accumulating all of that information so that we can potentially have access not just to the businesses here, but then ultimately to us, the locals, and that would be awesome. The Motorsport MOU was signed by council, thank you, and now the Motorsport Committee is in fundraising phase, as the state grant only covers the OHV EIR report section, so a 50% match is needed for the committee funds. So we are promoting that anybody available who would like to help out, please do. The DeWeese Community and Senior Center marketing, per council requests, the EDC is reviewing the DeWeese Center's marketing opportunities, including the current contracts and use fees, and hopefully we'll have some recommendations back to council early 2014. We are trying to build relationships with other committees for the city to make sure that we are not duplicating work, and one of these was the Beautification Committee. So we had some suggestions about how to address the blight in Lompoc, which is often cited as a major detractor when recruiting new employers. So the EDC met and presented a completed plan for a block improvement campaign to the Beautification Committee, which they declined to participate in. So now the EDC is now exploring the ability to take on this plan as a project pending committee members willing to manage the campaign. It is all structured already by our wonderful committee member, Alice Milligan, who has spoken to Home Depot and gotten the materials needed to be ready to be donated, and to the federal prison program for workers to come off the program and help do it. So we have the manpower and the materials. We just need to manage and decide how we're going to execute it. So we're looking to some of the committee members to participate in that. The Lompoc Vision has taken on the biannual tourism magazine to be produced, and we're looking into advertising in the magazine as well as offering our editorial content and review as needed. So we're really excited to see that revived and by a local business. The seasonal contests at the Chamber were always the Christmas trees and holiday lighting, but they did an I Love Lompoc window campaign that was very successful, and we, as the committee, see that this should be expanded out into the Lompoc Valley area and add several additional campaigns throughout the year, such as the Pet Month for the dog show, cycling art for the bike race weekend, and a birding theme during the annual bird count. If we had similar contests and other things like this to draw attention to, it's a tourism draw, and it finds not only outside interest, but it builds a community, and we really need to focus on that. So the final report you were handed, based on your requests and the first report given to you in the last presentation, was what additional time the committee spends on these projects besides the executive and regular committee meetings. So you have that, and it covers the topics, the dates, the hours, the number of members participating, and notes. We don't call out individual members because we don't feel that's fair given any ebb and flow of the different projects. So in addition to the executive and regular committee meetings, members spent a total of 142 volunteer hours on current projects. That means an average of 2 to 3 members spent about an average of 5 hours on 29 topics. These topics ranged from phone calls and emails, attendance at city council meetings on behalf of various projects, building partnerships with other city commissions like the Parks and Rec, Beautification, and Planning committees, to working on our goals of creating a supportive business environment, marketing Lompoc, and launching Lompoc into the 21st century. That's as much as we have for you right now. Hopefully we will have continued success as we start 2014, and we welcome your questions and suggestions.
You guys are doing a great job. Thank you so very much. That's 142 hours that you saved the staff or one of us, so we appreciate all your help and your professional workmanship. Councilmember Lingle?
Thank you, sir.
She ran away, though.
Well, she did. Where'd she go? That's okay. No, I don't have a question. I just want to echo the mayor's thank you. I mean, I know all of you put in a lot of work and a lot of time outside of your regular businesses, and we really appreciate everything you're doing, so thank you.
Just on, sorry. Let me finish up and then I'll come back to you. For those folks out there in TV land or here that are involved in the home food, cottage food industry, I'm actually having a meeting next week with a representative from the co-op in Isla Vista and someone here locally who would like to organize a little local producers co-op that would have, I think it's envisioned to have 2 types of members, participating members and supplying members, with the hope of getting a Made in Lompoc store open in the very near term, because we now have so many people making so many things. We sat the other day, I think we ended up with 40 different businesses on the list that are producing locally, and we didn't have all the cottage food even. So there's a plethora of opportunities. Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you for the presentation. I actually do have 2 questions for Ms. Gallivan, if possible. In the activity update, the first question I have, under recreation, the snack shack at the aquatic center, you said that there's currently efforts of procurement of new vending machines, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to be aware, when we're looking at vending machines, we're looking at 50% healthy options.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to confirm. I heard that in the public, right? Everybody heard that. Okay, I think that's great. I also wanted to say the window painting idea, before I forget, I think that's a fantastic idea, doing that seasonally. That's fun. I loved the window painting. I think it was really great for the community. And there was some amazing art out there. So that's a great idea, and I support you. Any help you need from me, I think that would be great. The other question I have, and that's all I have for now, is I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe what I requested the last time we got an update was don't just give me businesses that have opened, but give me businesses that have closed or left.
That's correct, and we will do that.
Okay, great. So when will I be getting that information? Will that be a public or?
We can put that in the next report, absolutely.
That would be great. Thank you, because I noted, one tasting room did open, but there were tasting rooms that left or closed, for example. And I think it's really important to look at the net. I think it's great. We need to stay positive and moving in the right direction, but I just want a full picture of that as much as possible. Thank you.
Councilmember Holmdahl?
Yeah, I was very pleased with the overall report, and then also you talked about working with the Parks Commission, cleaning up some of the areas that people keep talking about. But the one interesting thing is Ashley brought up was that as a wine taster goes out, another one replaces them. So, I mean, we aren't losing them as fast as people think they are, but they're going different places. But the tasting room is leaving, but not the production of the wine. And that's staying locally. So I think you're losing a couple there, but the industry itself is bringing them on. And what you have are the cross-section of programs that you're working with, and also with Hancock College. I think as we get into it, the Hancock College is going to be a major component starting the first of the year.
Okay. Got to change chairs, Chief. You're on it, but in your other hat. Our city administrator status report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, audience, and viewers. I'd just like to share with you that this Friday we have the Lompoc Children's Christmas Season Parade at 6 a.m. So please come out and p.m. Sorry, a.m. 6 p.m. Come out for a wonderful evening of great lights. p.m. 6 p.m. Friday. Thank you. And we will post the no parking signs on Thursday, but they do not take effect until Friday at 3. So you can still park in front of the businesses and frequent them and shop all the way up until Friday at 3. You can keep shopping, but then we're getting ready for the parade. So come out and join us Friday at 6 p.m. And we have more than 2,000 entries this year and participants. So it's going to be a big parade. Thank you.
In other words, 1/3 of the kids in Lompoc will be in the parade, 1/3 will be watching the parade, and the other third will be telling all of you, hey, how come we're not at the parade? So take the kids, take the grandkids, take your neighbor's kids, and come on down and have a great time. It's the best fun in Lompoc. Okay, City Clerk, any staff requests and announcements?
We have staff requests.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and public. I'm Kevin McKeon, Public Works Director. City Administrator asked me to give you a quick update on the building contract, the RFP for Broadspect. As it was shared last week or last meeting, we had been in negotiations with Broadspect to continue their service here as the building official and providing building services. We brought Broadspect online in 2011 based on the revamp and the reinvention that we had here at City Hall and to be business friendly. And they were a big part of that turnaround. And so we were working with them on that contract. The contract expires April 1st, 2014, so we're less than 6 months away. Based on the concerns expressed at the last council meeting, and after meeting with the interim city administrator, we decided to stop that negotiation, and we're working on now an RFP. The schedule is to advertise the RFP by the end of this month, have that on the street, and then have interviews and open proposals in February. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions? City Administrator?
Yes, thank you. One more thing I would like to give an update on is the compliance policy and the meetings that we've had with the ad hoc committee. We do have a draft that will be sharing with the Human Services Commission. They should have that to review in January, and then we can proceed with bringing a draft to council. So just wanted to provide that update. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we're going to move to oral communications. This is your opportunity to talk to us about any subject. If it is on the agenda tonight and you can stay, it's better if you wait and talk to us then because we'll remember more. But if you need to go or there's another item, come on down. Anybody want to talk to us? That wasn't very hard. Okay, we'll close oral communications. We'll come back to the consent calendar. And for you Boy Scouts out there, the consent calendar are items that are kind of our regular mundane business. And so we don't talk about each one of them individually. We've all looked at them ahead of time and understand them pretty clearly. So number one, we have the approval of the minutes of the meetings of November 12th, 15th, and 16th. And I think our able clerk, Mr. Joe Pannoni of the 15th and 16th, did a great job. Item 2, we have the approval of expenditures. We have a payroll voucher for $1,001,000. We have a voucher register for $427,000, a voucher register for $457,000, utility credit refunds of $700, an electronic payment for September of $2.2 million, and manual payments for September of $8,651. I will not participate in the vote on check number 316656 for $890 to Smitty's Towing because I have a conflict of interest. And so we're going to spend about $4 million of your money, guys. Number 3, ordinance number 156613 is summary of action to amend the city zoning ordinance, map and text changes for zoning ordinance for the Southside residential overlay, and this is the second reading. Item number 4, amendment number 1 to the Breeze Memorandum of Understanding to operate the bus system with Santa Maria. And that's it. Is there any council member who would like to remove an item or ask a question? Seeing none, could someone make a motion, please?
I move the consent calendar.
And a second.
Second.
And could we vote, please? And that passes 5-0. Thank you. And now we're going to move to item number 7, the conditional approval of the city administrator's contract. And without further ado, I would like, this evening we are at the end of a 5-month process to recruit and hire our new city administrator. I want to thank Terry Black-Braun of Terry Black and Associates, who called in with us this evening for an excellent recruitment and applicant screening. We had over 50 applicants that Terry reviewed, and the final 4 that we interviewed when Joe was our clerk. I'm pleased to announce that the council has unanimously selected Patrick Miller of Fresno as our new city administrator. Patrick brings an impressive level of executive management and leadership experience to the city and is well equipped to help our organization for many years to come. We had a number of highly qualified candidates who were attracted to Lompoc. However, Patrick's history of public service, excellence, and efficiency in California stood out. Patrick has worked for the city of Fresno for 13 years and is currently both the Public Works Director and the Utilities Director, overseeing 887 employees with a $574 million budget. Patrick will begin work in Lompoc on January 6th. And now, if you would all join me in welcoming Patrick, and he's coming on down to talk.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members, colleagues, and to the public. I am thrilled to be here, and I'm honored and humbled by the process we've been through, and just thrilled and looking forward to the great opportunities and even the challenges that face us ahead. And appreciate the trust that you've placed into me, and I'm committed to not let you down in that regard. And just looking for great days ahead. Lompoc's just such a wonderful community, and we've just it's grown within our heart, and we're looking ahead to great days. But I thank you very much for the selection process, and for just the wonderful hospitality you and the community provided in the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I'd like to open this item to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to talk to us on this item? Seeing no one rise, we'll close our communication and we'll come back to the council. Is there any discussion? If not, I'd accept a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Bob, did you want to?
Sure. I'd like to approve the staff recommendation for the approval of our new city administrator.
And I'll second that.
And is there any discussion? Seeing none, can we vote, please? And that passed 5-0 again. We already had this vote when Joe was our clerk.
You better explain
So we just we picked on him mercilessly during the event, yeah, and he took it all in good stead. Okay, and now let's take a break so everybody can meet with Patrick. So now we're going to go to item 5, the City Council adoption of Resolution 5886-13, declaring results of a majority protest proceedings and establishing the Lompoc Tourism Improvement District, LTID, and approving the management agreement with Visit Lompoc, Inc. And for those of you who pulled a copy off the website of the management district plan, we have 3 small changes to that. And for those of you who pulled a copy off the website of the memorandum of understanding, we have a whole bunch of changes there. And the new copies are out back. Lucille.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. This evening is the 3rd meeting on this particular topic, as the council is aware. And the recommendation is to hold the public hearing to adopt resolution number 5886, parens 13, declaring results of the majority protest proceedings and establishing the Lompoc Tourism Improvement District, otherwise known as the LTID, and approve the management agreement with Visit Lompoc Incorporated for implementation of the purposes of the LTID. And the background information is discussed in the staff report, which provides the history of the project and how it has proceeded through the required steps to establish this tourism district for the benefit of the community. And there are just the information, as the mayor said, there have been some changes to the particular documents that are attached to the staff report. And with that, Mr. Pannoni has the information on those changes. He has the most current information, so I'm going to turn that portion of the staff report over to Mr. Pannoni.
Thank you, Mr.
And for those of you on the dais, the new copies have been passed out, so disregard the ones in your notebook and go to the ones that were passed out.
Right, and there's two. There's the clean version and the red line version. So the changes, some of them are just technical changes, but we'll go through them anyway. Page 1, you'll see on paragraph 1.1, we're just making sure that the effective date of this is the date it's signed by both parties, because at one point we had a particular date in here, but because of the fact that they haven't been incorporated yet, we didn't want to have a particular date. We just want to have it be when both parties sign it. On page 2, there's a addition of some language that makes the gives the management company the ability to increase the amount of percentage of the assessment they receive for their administrative services if it's approved by the city council. Right now it's set at 10%. If they want more than that, they'd have to come back to you and ask for more. This is just clarifying that they could come back and ask for more if they felt they needed more. On the bottom of page 2 and much of page 3, basically what we did is we revised the section that said the kinds of information that the management company is going to have to provide you. Rather than being so specific as we were on page 3, we generalized it and basically said that they have to provide sales and marketing services which provide us a specific benefit to the businesses that are to the hotel businesses, basically. And then on page 5, there was a change again in 3.4 because we had a specific date. We changed that date to have it be when the city goes to pay the loan to the district funding, that it's 14 working days after the effective date rather than a date specific, again, because they haven't incorporated. On 5.1, we had set up a disbursement program, and this just makes it clear that if we collect more money than they budgeted, and there's more assessment after it's budgeted than what was budgeted, they can still spend the extra money. They just have to spend it in the prorated fashion that the original budget set. The way we had it originally was they'd have to come back here to get approval to spend the money, and it didn't make any sense for them to have to come back here as long as they're spending in the same proration. And then on page 8, there was a change on page 6, but it was sort of minor. It was just adding a reference to the plan that the mayor was just referred to. On page 8, section 12.1, again, this is making it clear that any services they have to provide has to be, if they change the services they're going to provide, they have to change the plan to do that. In order to do that, they have to come back to you, and then they have to also comply with whatever hearing process the law requires. So that's what that amendment was to do. On page 9, section 14.2, we deleted that section because it really is repetitive of what's contained in 4.1, so we didn't need to have it said twice. And section 16, we made a change in the language just to make it clear that if the district is ever disestablished, these assets that it may have will get dispersed according to the law. Rather than have the extra verbiage we had there, we just focused on what the law requires is how the disbursement will occur. And with that, that's the only comments I have. And of course, this is not finalized in terms of people's names to sign because we don't have a corporation yet. And the budget that's blank now will be provided once they get their corporation up and running and provide us that budget. So tonight what we're doing is asking you to approve this form, knowing that there's a couple of blanks like names and that kind of thing that will get filled in. That's all I had on that.
And I was advised by the consultant because I asked, how come the corporation's not done? And they can't, all the papers for the corporation are in place, but they can't file the papers for the corporation until the city approves the fact that a corporation can be completed. So this is the next step. And Joe, on the management district plan, there were 3 little small changes. Do you have those to share? Okay. One was the addition of one more hotel, which was a bed and breakfast.
2 of them pertain to this. So now there's 13 hotels. One was the addition of a bed and breakfast, changing 12 to 13 on another page. And the third item.
Yeah, me too. I read it, but it didn't. It was very minor in nature. It was a catch of a mistake. Okay. Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Marilyn. City Attorney, I do have one question. On the page 1, the first paragraph removed public benefit, but then on the page 12, it still says visit Lompoc, comma, a California nonprofit, comma, public benefit corporation.
The public benefit should be deleted from the last page. Sorry. Thank you for catching that.
You're welcome. Two other things. My other question was on page 2 to 3, well, mostly on 3, there was a large portion that was taken out. What was the cause of that?
That was what I had referred to. It delineates in more specificity what the programs will be that they will provide, as opposed to the more general nature of as reworded. It was their request to do that. From a legal perspective, I didn't see it being a significant issue because you approve their plan every year. So if you don't like the plan, then you'll make them change it.
Right, and so that was where I wanted to sort of bring in the concerns of the Economic Development Committee. I didn't know if there was somebody on staff who could address their concerns as to who would be represented on the board of the nonprofit, and if there is going to be any criteria for projects to be selected for funding. But I guess the way we deal with that is the fact that it has to be approved, the plan has to be approved in public by the City Council every year.
Yes.
Although with regard to the board members, currently the way the law is set up, the requirement is for the city to enter into a contract with a nonprofit. It doesn't say that you need to, or it doesn't technically give you the authority to say, and it has to be made up of this sort of a board. So you could certainly try to do that, but again, the ultimate authority you have is to approve the budget, and as was mentioned earlier, you have the authority to terminate the agreement without cause.
Perhaps we don't want to look into attempting to change the makeup of the nonprofit board, but is there any way to create a requirement that would necessitate a relationship between the Economic Development Committee and this nonprofit, sort of as a reporting agency or some kind of intermediary? Because I think that might be what we would do otherwise, is have our commission get involved somehow in their own capacity. I don't know. I know this is a unique situation.
I think there's legal authority to add it as a requirement to the agreement. Whether or not the board will want to do that, I don't know, because we don't know who the board is yet. But you could certainly add something like that if the council wanted to, some language to require some communication between the Economic Development Committee and this VLI board.
I just think that if we can, and again, I'm curious about council's perspective, and if there's anybody in the public who has any opinion about this, it would seem that there could be an effective relationship established there where they could still have all the authority to bring forward the plan, but if the Economic Development Committee reviewed it first, we would have a recommendation from the committee alongside as well, either for approval, changes, or denial, for example.
If I may, the only, as I'm thinking about it, the only thought I'd like to share is the expenditures of this corporation, or the district, actually, the expenditure of the district money is rather limited in what it can be spent on. It can only be spent on things that especially benefit the assessees. So I wouldn't want us to set up, or I don't know that it'd be a good idea to set up a program that would cause expenditures that someone else may want to do in some other fashion that wasn't necessarily a special benefit. So I wouldn't want to create a false sense to the community.
Yeah, that's definitely not my intent. I just want to be sure that there's a working relationship with one of our bodies that recommends actions in regards to these industries generally. So, Mr. Pepe, I know you're still in the audience. If you have anything you want to say, I would just encourage you to do so either now or during public comment. But I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Councilmember Starbuck?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to remind people that this is a self-assessment that the hotels are doing upon themselves, and they've decided that they were going to work with this Visit Lompoc Incorporated here. They're paying for it. They've They are. This is what their assessment is. We are being paid 1% to manage their money. That's about as far as we should get involved if we want this to be successful, I feel.
Seeing no lights lit, we'll go to public comment. And Ken, I know you're not here to talk about the chamber because you're not on tonight, but I know you've been involved with the hotels on this and developing a relationship with the chamber, and maybe you would address that and to start with, and then whoever else would like to speak on this subject.
Well, I hadn't planned to speak, but I will. Ken Ostini, City of Lompoc. Yeah, I've been involved with this process since the very beginning in bringing the lady from the San Ynez Valley Hotel Association over to talk to our hotel owners to get this process started. I think it's a great process, and somewhat like Councilmember Starbuck was saying, this is an assessment that the hotel owners are putting upon themselves. And in my understanding of the contract is, they have the authority, again, with City Council approval of their plan, to determine how this money is spent. And I fully support that, because again, they are assessing themselves, and not anybody else. Their tenants that come to their hotels are being assessed. So I fully support this process, and I think it's a great idea. Having communication with the Economic Development Committee and looking at the plan, I don't think is a bad idea either. But can the Economic Development Committee make recommendations to the council? Sure they can, and the council has the ultimate authority on that plan to make sure they're happy with what's being done. So, but as far as directing these guys on how they can spend the money, I don't think we have the legal authority to do that, or even pick any of the board members. I think that's strictly up to them on how they pick their board members. Again, because it's their program, it's their contract, it's their money. So, but I fully support it. I think it's going to be a great thing for Lompoc once it gets started. So,
any questions for Ken? Thanks, Ken. Anyone else who would like to speak on this subject? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steve Pepe, and City Council members. I think Councilperson Costa is heading in the right direction, which is that there ought to be some liaison or coordination, cooperation, whatever you want to call, between the VLI and the Economic Development Committee, and we can perhaps solve two problems. If you would suggest that somebody from the board of the VLI apply to be a member of the Economic Development Committee, I think that would solve both problems, because we would then be able to coordinate, cooperate, chat, make suggestions, and when they come up to get their plan approved, I think they'd appreciate and want our support and our help, and I think that would solve a number of issues. I don't see any legal impediment to why you couldn't make that suggestion to them, and I don't know why they wouldn't want to, as a matter of fact, join with us, because we're both heading in the same direction, and I think it'd be helpful if we both knew what we were trying to do at the same time. Thank you.
Great suggestion. Thank you. Anybody else? Last chance? Going? Gone. Okay. City Attorney, how would we best include that, Mr. Pepe's suggestion?
I'm looking for the place. My suggestion would be that we use language that says VLI is encouraged to include as one of its board members a member of the Economic Development.
No, the other way around. Mr. Pepe wants them to provide a member to the Economic Development Committee.
Then the same encouragement language, but to do that.
Okay, and where would you put that?
That's what I was looking. Maybe we could just add it to 2.6.
Okay.
But I'll look to see where I think is best, and then I'll write the language and let you know.
You understand the concept?
Yep.
Okay. I think that's a great suggestion. Yep. Okay. Is there any other discussion?
I just have one question.
Go ahead,
No,
Councilman.
I'm real pleased to see this document before us tonight. We've been wanting to get the hotels, and I think with the chamber working with them, we got the hotels on one page, and I believe tying that in there where we're making a suggestion to them that one of their members belong to the Economic Development Committee, then in the information can go back and forth. Now, what happens with the information, that's something else again, but at least that discussion is there. So I think setting it up that way, and you're not telling them that they have to do something, but it's a suggestion.
Councilmember Lingle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to have us discuss a little bit about the $75,000 loan. I don't recall seeing that in the original agreement we had in October.
That was, remember, at the last council meeting, I brought a letter in from them requesting that and asked to have it agendized, and we all voted to have it agendized. Okay. And so Mr. Pannoni worked it into the agreement.
Okay, so...
And the loan is against, their estimated revenue for the year is $250,000, so the loan is against the estimated revenue. It's just that they won't accrue any money until almost March, and we need to get them going because the Hancock facility kicks off January 1st.
Okay, so if I read this correctly then, this $75,000 will be paid back, or the proceeds of the district, at a rate, we'll be retaining $25,000
right
from each payment.
They won't pay us, we'll just deduct it from what we're paying them.
That's what I mean. Okay, so we're not waiting for them to pay us, we just don't pay them that amount each time.
Correct. And that's in the agreement when they sign it.
Okay.
And just so the record's clear, there may be a month when $25,000 isn't received through the assessments, and so it may take more than just 3 payments because we may not get 25.
Well, we get the first $25,000. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Would anybody mind if I move this? Because I really have been happy to see this go forward. Okay. So I move we adopt Resolution 588613, declaring the results of the majority protest proceedings and establish the Lompoc Tourism Improvement District, LTID, and approve the management agreement and Visit Lompoc, Inc., VLI, for implementation and for the purposes of LTID, with the one correction that Joe's going to put in and with the 3 small rightos, technical corrections that need to appear in the management district plan.
And as to that, I would suggest we just add an additional 2.7, and the 2.7 paragraph would say, city encourages VLI's board to appoint one of its members to the membership of the city's Economic Development Commission. And just for the record, we should ask, the city clerk didn't receive any protests, right?
No.
Okay. I move what he said, and I'd be looking for a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, can we vote, please? And that passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, item number 6, the after action report and possible action to amend Chapter 8.28 of the Lompoc Municipal Code related to the sale, storage, and use, transportation of safe and sane fireworks, and approve Resolution 587913 establishing related fees and charges. Chief?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, those of you who are left in the audience, I have 2 versions. I have a short version, and I have the long version. Which would you prefer? How about if I start with a brief overview, and then we can drill down into the specifics if you'd like?
Sure.
In short, staff reviewed as part of the after action process that was promised to you when you adopted the ordinance. We reviewed the process and activities surrounding last year's 4th of July. Basically, from the time we enacted the ordinance the drawing process, the application process, the drawing process, the permitting process, the regulatory oversight, and the regulations that govern them. We solicited input immediately after the 4th from the nonprofit groups. We went back and reviewed our previous recommendations, and as you will see in the staff report, the background starts May 15th of 2012. So literally we went all the way back to May 15th, fast forward to today, to review our previous recommendations, our previous reports, and our projections. What came out of all that are proposed changes that, in our opinion, enhance the oversight, the regulatory process, and level the playing field just a little bit. Some of the highlights are an expansion of the public education program. Buried somewhere in the report is a recommendation that we continue to work with the wholesale partners and put flyers into the shopping centers, into the grocery stores, into our city utility bills, reminding what's legal, what's illegal, really trying to get a beeline on our illegal activities. The encouragement of block parties through a permit process, and I've had this question asked a few times. The definition of block party is going to be fairly broad. It will cover cul-de-sacs, it will cover non-main arterials, it can cover parking lots, so it's really a pretty broad permit process. But however, in encouraging folks to use that, we actually have the ability now to put in some regulatory controls that make it a little easier to enforce. We've also proposed, at the encouragement of the public and members of council, we've identified 4 parks within the city that you may wish to consider designated as approved discharge locations for safe and sane fireworks. Obviously, through the permit process for those parks, we would designate specific areas within the park where the discharge can take place so as to minimize any damage there may be. Staff has had a fair amount of discussion as to what those conditions might be. You'll notice 2 of the parks are within walking distance, easy walking distance of our multifamily dwellings, attempting to solve some of the concerns that were brought to our attention that some of the apartment owners did not want discharge of safe and sane fireworks. The only caveat in the parks is there's got to be a lead. It could be a family, it could be a group, it could be a church group who would come in and apply for the permit and secure a deposit. We've also proposed within the ordinance that you consider approving a city supervised site. And after a fair amount of discussion with members of staff, we believe that the most logical place for that is the Old Town parking lot. And the reason we believe that is because the Old Town parking lot is basically 2 pieces. There's the piece along Ocean, and there's the piece where the swap meet is. So we could have parking in one half and then organized events in the other half. The fiscal impact is rather lengthy, but in essence, we propose that the fiscal impact of the overtime and oversight would be recovered in a combination of a $10,000 contribution, just like last year, it's capped at $10,000, from the fireworks wholesalers, and we have a formula that we use with them. It's based on the number of stands each of them hosts, and a 4% surcharge on gross sales. Originally, we were working with a 6% figure. However, when I retooled the cost of oversight from the fire department, taking into consideration the positive direction that council pointed me in at our last get-together where you adopted the master plan, a majority of the fire department work will be absorbed during the 40-hour work week. The only fire department charges are in there for overtime, same as the police department. So what you now have in your fiscal impact is we're projecting the fiscal impact to be $16,018.58, and based on some of the figures that I've been working with from the wholesalers from last year, we believe the 4% surcharge with the 10% or $10,000 contribution will cover that. In the event that sales are over the top and the gross that is collected exceeds what's needed, then that would be banked for next year's program. There's also a rather lengthy summary of the costs and the financial situation of our community fireworks program. I'll share with you that we've also been working together to identify ways in which we can enhance or bring back, if you will, the citizens' participation in our community fireworks show, possibly by making some adjustments on the dates, etc., and hopefully we'll be able to report that back to you in the near future. Another change that you see in here is the addition of a fee resolution. We're now at a point with the ordinance where we believe that the changes that we're proposing to you will align it and streamline it and make it better, and we do not want to keep coming back to you every single year with a new ordinance. So we've now taken the stuff that we will be reviewing every year, which is in essence the fees, and placing them into a fee resolution. A majority of these fees will eventually transition into the fire department fee resolution, but I'm trying to get us moving because we have some deadlines looming for us in January. So in summary, before I try to field your questions, we agree to disagree in many areas, not in many areas, only in one, and not with everybody. But the police and fire department remain opposed to allowing the sale and storage of safe and sane fireworks. We just don't believe it's consistent with our duty as far as public safety. Moving past that, here's a recap of the recommendations. Introduced by first reading, by title only, with further reading waived, of ordinance number 1594, open paren 13, close paren, amending chapter 8.28 as noted, and that is in attachment 1. To avoid some of the challenges we faced last year, or that's not even been a year yet, but last season, we're recommending, and the detail on this is in the front side of the report, that 2 permits be issued to the Lompoc Unified District Education Foundation. There's a representative of the foundation here. And in looking at some of the things that that foundation does, they are a fully organized 501c3. They're used to doing audits. They're used to doing reporting. They have a pretty well-organized machine, and we believe that would be in the best interest of the school groups. In an effort to provide all nonprofit groups with the opportunity to raise additional funds, groups receiving a permit one year will not be eligible the following year. The hours and dates of sales and authorized discharge remain unchanged. We did get some input from some of the groups wishing that we would start allowing discharge on the day sales go into place. That actually escalates some of our costs, and we believe we really need to get a couple more years under our belt before we tinker with that. The ban on discharge absent in city parks, absent a permit for those 4 designated parks, remain unchanged. The percentage of contributions from MPGs selling safe and sane fireworks to support the community fireworks show remain unchanged. As you can see in the financials, it's really important if we're going to sustain that program that we have some revenue flow. Ms. Plummer is here who can speak to some of the donation challenges if you wish, but you're all familiar with them. All costs related to regulatory oversight, cleanup, and staffing of city-approved discharge sites should be paid by a combination of wholesaler contribution and surcharge sales. And really, we're only recommending one site. So when we look at that one site, I would go back and work with Public Works and discuss what is really going to take and whether or not we could possibly solicit some volunteers to help oversee that site. Surcharge is 4% on gross sales, wholesale contribution of $10,000, same as last season. We're asking that you consider adopting resolution number 5879, which is attachment 2, establishing related fees and charges. There's some modifications that we're proposing to the wholesalers agreement. The ordinance actually empowers city staff to develop the wholesaler agreement. We put this in for your review, and hopefully you'll see we're on the right track. Wholesaler agreement and attachment A have been modified to reflect the discussions we've had with the wholesalers and the discussions we've had with the nonprofits. We recommend we disseminate an information and application packet that encourages 4th of July block parties to include privately owned parking lots, and designate the Old Town City parking lot be approved as a safe and sane fireworks discharge area. So that is the short version. And I'd be more than happy to attempt to answer any questions you may have.
Chief, I just want to say that I think you guys have done a great job of moving forward with this. I'm particularly excited about the Old Town parking lot and the fact that I think the 4th of July is on a Friday, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So we're all just going to be able to go from Old Town Market over to Old Town parking lot and have a lot of fun. I think the idea of having a ranger, a park ranger there to supervise that is good, and I think it probably is a little lower stress for some people. And then the 4 parks you selected all make good sense because they're either in proximity to high-density neighborhoods or they're parks with a lot of asphalt to allow areas for people to use. So those are all good things. No secret, I'm sad we didn't catch the guy shooting skyrockets last year, and I know we're going to go work harder on it this year. And one of the comments I heard from some people was, we took out all our old stuff we had in the garage and shot it. And I went, that really wasn't the idea. The idea was to shoot the legal stuff. And I think Councilmember Starbuck heard from a number of people that they had bought those other fireworks in another state during the summer, not knowing we were going to have Safe and Sane, and so we may have seen a few more of them. Sheldon Smith, from representing the superintendent, had to go to another meeting in Simi Valley, but he asked me to relay to the council the fact that the superintendent fully supports the concept of having the school district foundation take the 2 spots and manage that on behalf of the school district. Councilmember Lingle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The mayor addressed a little bit about the skyrockets. So, and I know we're going to attempt to do a better job this year of controlling the illegals. So I don't know if one of your colleagues want to get up from the fire or from the police department, but what are we going to be doing differently? It really was out of hand, out of control last year with the illegals going off.
And if Chief Ralston wants to step up, I'll yield. We're going to use every tool in the toolbox. And we just had this discussion late this afternoon. What can we do differently? In addition to putting additional folks on the street, changing our culture a little bit. But there's some really neat things buried within the administrative citation process that we're not proposing to change, by the way. So one of the areas we'll be training our enforcement folks is in the issuance or the definition of the issuance of the citations. And one of the options here is mailing of the administrative fine citation to the citee by certified mail with return receipt to the address shown on the official records of the county assessor. And when you get down to this really long paragraph, you'll find the definition of responsible person. In essence, what this means is if I pull up in front of Captain Lardner's house.
So many do.
And I see illegal fireworks emitting from the backyard, I document that. I document the address, I do a narrative, I add it to my stack of citations to be sent out the following day. So that's one of the tools that we're going to pull out of the toolbox. We believe this is it's a bit of a shift for our personnel to get used to the administrative citation process. So as we move along, I mean, obviously our preference is to focus on the illegals and educate the folks on the safe and sanes. So that's kind of the approach we're talking about taking.
Okay. And I know we talked about this a little bit before with the permit process, but how are we going to control the use of alcohol at these, quote, block parties while even safe and sanes are being discharged?
Well, we have a philosophy that fireworks and alcohol don't mix. It's clearly stated, actually, even within the guidelines of the fireworks industry. So a prohibition of alcohol will be stated in the permit. So failure to follow a permit, you lose your permit, you lose your cleaning deposit, and you get immediately shut down. The neat thing about the block party permits is what we're discussing. I keep looking back towards Joanne because she's done a lot of research on this. What we're discussing is a majority of the homeowners must sign on to agreeing to that block party permit. So you've got, 75% whatever we come up with of the folks on that street agreeing that they're going to abide by no alcohol and all the other safety regulations. But the bottom line is, we'll be running a circuit. We'll be stopping and visiting with the block party folks like we like to do anyway, just to make sure they're staying safe. And if they're in violation, they'll get a little talking to and give an opportunity to clean it up, or depending on how bad it is, we may just immediately shut it down.
Okay. And thank you for the segue into my next question. When you mentioned 75% of the people in the community, one of the parks that will possibly be approved is Ryan Park. And I'm sure that every one of us on the council have heard from citizens of Ryan Park on how their objections to, they've got the dog show there, they've got the flower festival there, they've got the spring arts festival there. I think we are really disregarding what that community has to deal with these large events. Now we're going to be allowing the fireworks going off at Ryan Park up until, well, it's still 10 p.m., I believe, right?
I think it's 9, but
9,
I'll double
okay.
check.
Okay, 9, and that is beyond...
Is it 10? No, sales stop at 9, discharge goes till 10.
Yeah, in which that is beyond our noise ordinance in our community. So I really think, I would like to see, if up to 75% of the people in the block parties need to consent to it, I'd like to see 75% of the residents in Ryan Park agree to have fireworks going off in Ryan Park. I don't think you're going to get it, but I'd like to see that.
Well, there's another way to control that. That's one way. Another way is to, within the permit, adjust the time to comply with the 9 p.m. noise ordinance. And also, when we give them the schematic of the approved layout, that we do it in such a way that it accommodates the parking for the size group they're pulling the permit for. That pulls the parking in off the street and limits the size of it. It's not going to be a free-for-all. Somebody has to take responsibility for pulling the permit. So they have to pay a permit fee, they have to pay a cleaning fee, and they'll be held responsible for the conditions of the permit. So that's one way of addressing the concerns from our neighbors at Ryan Park. Get the parking in off of the street, limit the size of the crowd, and shut it off at 9 o'clock.
No, I'm still not happy with that. I just think we should have done a survey of the people around Ryan Park before we even put that in the proposal. I think those poor people around there put up with enough going around the community, but that's my opinion. I am very happy with the additional public education, and I know we're going to have more time for training for the use. Those are some positive things that I see coming out of this if it's approved. So, thank you.
Councilmember Holmdahl.
One problem I still have with it is the idea that if we're going to have safe and sane fireworks throughout the city of Lompoc and they're in all these different lots, why do we want a fireworks show? And we took a hit on it this last year, took a 13% cut to about $3,000 from what it costs us to put it on. So why do we go out to with an expense to have a regular show? And that's the other thing. Then
I think he wants to go with that one because there's a lot of conversation about it.
There's still a significant percentage of our citizens that enjoy attending the community program, the professionally shot program. They go up in the air, they make the loud booms, they do all the stuff the safe and sane fireworks do not. We believe with some, I don't want to use the term manipulation, but some adjustment of the date for the community fireworks show, we can get the best of both worlds. where, I'll use this year as an example, some of the preliminary discussions we're having this year is 4th of July does fall on a Friday. And yeah, I've already talked with the chamber about, the Old Town segueing right into the parking lot over there. So let's consider shooting the community show on Saturday. So now the folks get to celebrate with their block parties in the park, the designated parks, on the 4th of July, and then there's still something for them to do on Saturday, and hopefully we'll see an increase in that attendance.
Yeah, it's one of the concerns, because I was watching it at Houck Stadium, and I seen more fireworks all over town than I did at Houck Stadium.
We're working on that.
And so that's, to me, it's a waste of time. The other thing I noticed, too, the amount of calls, dispatch calls you have is 115 in 13, and you only had 23 in 12. So that means you bring more personnel out there running around doing things, and the cost of putting the program together. You've done a real good job putting a lot of things together. I do not agree with the public entity areas. I just don't want to fire fireworks in our facilities. But you've done a good job on the report, but like I say, you haven't changed my mind.
Thanks.
I think there was one question in there that he asked.
The additional cost to staff the dispatch center and the additional cost of enforcement personnel is overtime, and is proposed to be covered in the cost recovery from the surcharge and the generous contribution of the wholesalers.
Very tactful. Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you for your staff report. It says a lot about the character of the staff who is able to present something even though you have challenges agreeing. So I respect you for bringing this forward. Thank you for that. I just wanted to comment on the idea of doing the fireworks show on Saturday. It's either going to work really great or it's not going to work at all. But the thing is, we won't know until we do it. So I want you to know that I commend you for being innovative and thinking outside of the box, because personally, just thinking of my own personal experience, I am much more likely to do that than give up one for the other. So I think that that's a really great idea, and if it doesn't work, we understand why too, right? So, and it's great you're flexible. So I appreciate that, and I'm curious to see what the public has to say. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Sorry, one more. Councilmember Starbuck.
I'm going to go ahead and echo the thank yous to you and the police chief for the report and working very hard to make this happen. I got to tell you, the last break I was outside, and one of the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts, when he left, he said, "We're not going to be here for the fireworks." They all wanted it. I just wanted to tell you that the little guys in green are all for it. I don't want to speak for the police, but I got to tell you, when I was with Sergeant Stetz, I thought it was like we were with Martin Sheen going up a river looking for Marlon Brando there for a while. It was way out of control, far worse than I've ever seen in Lompoc. I hope it's over. I hope everybody got rid of everything. And I think that with this plan, Chief, we will be able to get a little hands on it.
If I could, I would like to give credit to every department, Public Works, Recreation, Police, Fire. We all came together on this report. It wouldn't have worked this way without their cooperation.
Yeah, I would echo what Councilmember Costa said. I think you have a lot of innovative ideas here, and it's obvious that we learned a lot from last time, and we made a lot of great improvements. So let me open this for oral communications. Who out there would like to talk to us about this subject? That was pretty tough. Okay.
Hello, Council. I'm Gloria Tadgue. I'm actually just a representative. I was involved in the fireworks booth for Lompoc High School, and I just wanted to thank the city for allowing Lompoc Fireworks to bring it in the town. Most importantly, for the nonprofits. We have very few activities here for the youth in our city, and this was one way for nonprofits to raise money, because there's very few activities that we can be involved with to raise money. And I think Lompoc Baseball is planning to buy new uniforms after almost 12 years of wearing the same uniform. So I want to thank you for that. As far as the experience from a community member, I've been here all my life. When I was younger, we had fireworks. Never seemed to be an issue before when I was growing up. I never noticed it. I promote keeping money in Lompoc. Several years we leave Lompoc on the 4th of July, take our families, go camping, and go somewhere we can light off fireworks. And I'd rather keep the money in Lompoc. I understand it's probably more manpower, but the illegals have always been here. We probably just noticed them more because there's more people that stayed in town. But I think it's a learning curve on the community. You promote more safety, and I think once the community understands what we're trying to do, it will calm down. But I still hope we continue to be able to enjoy Lompoc 4th of July at home instead of having to travel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Who's next?
Good morning, good evening, Council. I'm Karen Appledorn, and I was always very against the fireworks, as were many people at many of the meetings, and I was very offended when at the end of the one meeting that you passed it, particularly Mayor Lynn, when you held up your binder and said, or folder, and said, unless all of you in this audience have all the information that I have in this folder, you don't know as much as I do. So I took that as a challenge, and I did call the counties, and I did talk to people in different parts of the state, since this company seemed to think they were selling all over. I talked to many areas where they deeply regretted having approved the fireworks and wish they could now get rid of them, as many residents wish that would happen here in town, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen if you pass this tonight. I think you should give it more time and let people read what's on the computer and read what this new code section. I'm finding out more information all the time. This Pyro Universe, for example, we were the big, what did they say? Yet another one for our side in California. So, and these were people all over the United States saying, yeah, we got another one. That's what your constituents were to pyrotechnic people. So there were more people that night. And then, the newspaper, it was clear, they wrote down 5 people were in agreement that night. But I recall 47 people getting up to this podium and talking. I didn't know, for example, religious institutions, that we were going to be paying for a mortgage at a church. I don't know that a lot of people knew that or would have agreed to that. I didn't know that was in the code. I honestly don't even know if that's legal, but I'd sure like to find out. I was led to believe, again, per that newspaper article that everyone got, if they don't read the codes, that we were supporting band uniforms at Cabrillo or different youth things. And now we find out, yes, you give 6 permits if you have that many requests, but only 2 can go to the kids or to the school district. You're really not being honest with us. And I told you, Mayor Lynn, and I told all of the council that night, that people do shoot off bottle rockets, and they do, and he kept continuing to say, but it's illegal for them to do that. They can't use fireworks that leave the ground. And we told you, but people do. We had neighbors, for example, and we're on a cul-de-sac. They park illegally, and you say, well, let's give education to everyone. Well, they bring all their friends from Santa Maria and all these other areas because they like our street. And you think they don't drink? They drink. You're not going to stop them. They're not going to get a permit, and the police are not going to have the manpower to come out because they don't have enough manpower as it is right now. We know our 911 dispatchers are overworked to death. I only know what I read in the newspaper from that part. But, let's be honest. This isn't working right now, and you need to give the citizens more time to think about this. I wish you would not pass this tonight. Your chief, the staff does not recommend that you pass this. They want to ban the fireworks again. And not having fireworks at the stadium on the 4th of July is an insult to our country. It just is. If you were ever in the military, I mean, the rockets, red glare, et cetera, et cetera. This isn't about people waving and giving little 3-year-olds, like you were saying about your granddaughter, holding a little flare or something to that effect. This is about our country and recognizing our country and the battles that we won. And there was a reason why we didn't have enough money or enough people there. And Mr. Starbuck, I do recall you talking about your Navy experience and having a fire suppression activity and stepping over the bodies of your dead buddies. And I thought, what zone is he? What does this have to do with the firework discussion? But somehow it got passed that night, as it did many times. But Mayor Lynn, too often you're ready to pass something. You don't care what constituents say when they come in here. That needs to stop, and it needs to stop tonight. And I did my research, too. It's not all in this folder tonight, and I wish you would listen to your other council members who would like to not do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Louis Linney with TNT Fireworks. Just thank you for inviting me to your wonderful city one more time. And I do appreciate the opportunity that you gave us this last year. I'm only here if you have any questions from the industry point of view. I have met Chief Lattipald, was very gracious with his time when I was here prior to the last council meeting. So we have discussed this from our point of view. I see nothing that we can't comply with or that would be unworkable. Obviously, if you have questions for industry, I'm here. Just 2 quick points. One thing is, I know that if you do ultimately move the show to July the 5th, I believe it would help the chief out in one other way, is that one of the things that he spoke to us about was the manpower being stretched with watching people with manning the show as well as the patrol, so that might ease up a little bit on your manpower needs. And then the surprising revelation tonight that the Councilman Starbucks, personally, I thought when you were with a policeman on July 4th, I thought that alone would account for a drop in the use of illegal fireworks in town. So was surprised to hear that that did not take place. But thank you, folks, again.
He did make a good drug bust, though. Anyone else who would like to speak at this time? Seeing no one rise, we'll close oral communication and come back to the chief. I would say with regard to Mrs. Aveldorn's question, the decision was made by the Lompoc Unified School District to ask for 2 of the stands last year because, why don't you explain it, Chief? Because it wasn't us, it was them.
Yeah, last year when we made a minor adjustment into the ordinance, there were some unusual circumstances that occurred in that it opened the application door, which is not a bad thing. But we had a lot of the school groups start to show up at the station, and the other nonprofits pointed out how many different school groups there are. So we met with the assistant superintendent and a group of the school group representatives, and voiced the concern that there's only 6 spots. And if every school group applies, then it could kind of sway the vote, so to speak, or the drawing. The superintendent made the decision on his own, sent me a letter that during the drawing, as soon as 2 school groups are drawn, then any school group drawn after that would not be issued a permit. We accepted that. Recall that the application for the school groups has to be signed by the superintendent. So taking that concept this year, that's why we proposed that 2 permits be assigned to the school and let them run it.
And their nonprofit foundation is appropriately structured for this. Yeah. The one thing I would add, I did a little back checking after last year. Based on the number of sales tickets that were written, it would appear that about 15,000 local residents participated in safe and sane fireworks purchases and use based on the number of purchases and the average number of people per residence in Lompoc. And I think a whole lot of them were on a couple of the streets I went down because they were sure packed. I never think I've ever seen that many people outdoors in Lompoc, and the weather was really nice for Lompoc, so that was even better. So, with regard to your concern about Ryan Park, Councilmember Lingle, how would you propose to resolve that?
Well, I mean, if we're going to be getting, if we're going to be getting 75% of the agreement from the people in the block party, ask the surrounding residents of Ryan Park.
I don't think that's a possible solution. I mean, if you feel very strongly about Ryan Park, do you want to remove that from the list? Is that what you're saying?
I'd like to see it removed, yes.
Okay. I don't have any grief with that.
You don't agree with that?
No, I don't have any grief with that.
No, me neither. I agree that Ryan Park should be excluded because there are so many other events throughout the year.
And the other three parks, we don't have events there on average. So.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. What happened? Well, yeah. Well, one thing did occur to me. If a group of residents around Ryan Park wanted to get a permit, now we have the reverse problem. Oh, that's all right. They could get a permit for another park.
Okay. They can come to Old Town parking lot.
Well, I think we're going to have a lot of people there, me included. So with the removing of Ryan Park, is there any other item in here that a council member wants to address specifically? Nope. Councilmember Lingle?
Yeah. It's not going to come any surprise, but I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Because I do not agree that the fireworks last year were a success, other than, yes, several nonprofits did make some money. TNT made some money. Our other goals, I don't believe, were reached. So that being in mind, I'm going to move that we reinstate the prohibition of fireworks in the city of Lompoc.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? So the motion is to reinstate the prohibition. Could we vote, please? And as you pointed out, no surprise. And that motion fails 3-2. So now we go back. Is there any other change that a council member, including those that voted on the no side, would like to see in this ordinance? Okay. Seeing none. Sure, go ahead.
There was just one thing here, Chief, that I wanted to ask, and it was under the groups permitted to sell fireworks, where it said that some of them were forced to return stock, there wasn't enough storage. This is all resolved with this ordinance now, right? These little issues with, we just kind of stuck it to the nonprofit, so to speak, the distributor. There was an issue with bathrooms, I understand, and
It's not necessarily, we did not necessarily need to make adjustments to the ordinance. We needed to work on our communication with the wholesalers. And as Louis mentioned, the overstock issue, we're discussing alternatives, and they do have an alternative. They can get a different style booth. The restroom, I believe we've cleared that up as well. So I believe those concerns with wholesalers have been cleared up.
Okay. So I accept the motion. Councilmember Costa?
Thank you, Marilyn. Councilmember Lingle, the reason I disagree is that, I was actually really curious to see what the outcome was going to be. I hadn't made up my mind because I wanted to hear the data and what had happened. And two big things stuck out to me. The first being no hospital visits that were related to firework injuries occurred due to the 4th of July.
I don't have the ability to report that.
I've been told personally from the hospital.
Okay.
So that okay, whether that's on record or not, I've been told personally that is, and you can
State quit tracking those a few years ago.
But we were reported by the emergency, because I was interested in that data beforehand and they were aware. I was reported about the emergency room activity of that evening and following day, and there was no fireworks-related injuries based on what was reported to me, and you can confirm that. And the other issue was whether there were any firework-related fires, which there was one minor one the next day, although, as you mentioned, it was related to somebody not using something in the right manner. So those were the two pieces that I was really looking for here. I don't want anything that's not safe for our community. But when I do look back at history and I realize, you know, in 1777 when they observed the signing of the Declaration of Independence the year prior, fireworks were present. And so for me, it is a very patriotic thing, and it is a celebration for me around that time of year. So for that reason, I would like to move that we do not reinstate the ban, but instead implement the changes as recommended by city staff.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Councilmember?
You know,
No, I don't know. Who was first?
I just want to make sure that your motion includes the removal of Ryan Park.
Correct.
My problem still is Lompoc has got three sides of it. It's next to brush. And it burns real fast. And in 1877 or 1777, they burnt brush to get it out of the way so they could farm. So there was no, you can go back to the Midwest during the rainy season and they have fireworks all the time. They don't care about what happens because they don't start fire. California and the dry community we have right now, it doesn't take much. You could start it with a weed eater. So just think what a fire tracker can do. So that's where I'm coming from, and that's my background. And there's where the concern I have, but also it ties into the extra load that we put on police and fire. And the report was excellent, but I'm still against it.
Well, this is Appledorn's statement. I did a lot of research too and didn't find the problems that she found, but I appreciate her work with regard to that. And truly, I wasn't really sure how many people were going to participate, but I spent about an hour and a half walking around town, and I was absolutely amazed at the number of people that were out. And the other thing that had struck me was neighbors were sitting talking to neighbors that had never talked before. You know, they live in the same apartment building or the apartment building next door. They never met each other, so it was a huge social occasion in Lompoc. And I'm happy that we didn't have injuries. I'm happy that we didn't have fires. I wasn't happy that we had skyrockets, but we'll go work on it. You know, life is learning. You learn and you go forward and you improve. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, could we vote, please? And that passes 3-2. Thank you.
I have a question for the city attorney. Does that suffice for adoption of the resolution and introduction of the ordinance? Thank you.
Okay, do we have any written communications at this time, City Clerk?
No.
And oral communications, this is your last opportunity to speak to us for 2 minutes on any subject. Anyone going once, going twice? Oral communications is closed. Council reports, comments, and meeting reports. From the left.
This morning, I attended the Bureau of Prisons Federal Prison Community Meeting along with the mayor and our interim city administrator, which was great. They gave us an update and introduced us to their special teams, which was very interesting. I then followed that with a tour of the facility for 3 hours. And I have to admit, if you haven't done it, please go tour that facility. The warden out there is welcoming. His staff is fantastic. And it's a learning experience. So I'd never been out there, grown up here my whole life. So that was really interesting for me today. And I also wanted to announce a conference that will be taking place, put on by the Youth Commission in conjunction with the Recreation Division. And the title is Mission I'm Possible. It's Teaching Our Teens as Leaders. That'll be Monday, February the 10th. 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. at the Dick Dewey's Community and Senior Center. It's open to all middle school and high school students, so if anybody knows any middle or high school students, please reference them to this conference. I think it's really going to be great. The fees are so minor, $5 and $10, $15, depending on when you register. There's going to be some great speakers that are really going to be able to connect with the teens and motivate them. There's going to be a lot of different breakout sessions, including jobs and finances and finding your own voice and putting the best foot forward. So again, if you know of any middle or high school students, this takes place on Monday, February 10th.
Councilmember Holmdahl?
Yeah, I'm glad you got a tour of the prison, since I'm out there 3 times a month. And in fact, Monday I'll be out there doing the same tour you did, so, and they're doing it. John did respond to a letter about trash in the alleys, and I just wanted to bring that up, is that we need some kind of report. When the alleys are looking as bad as they are, we got to figure out a way to start cleaning them up, and I'd like to have some kind of response back from one of the departments who cleans up trash.
We have that on our council work plan, so
okay.
Now that we're done with the end of the year, or the budget and hiring a new city administrator, and Teresa won't be having, how many jobs do you have? Yeah, we'll move forward.
Yeah, I'm the 6th.
Go ahead.
Just one thing to let you know, I will not be here on January 6th. I'm sorry, I have to go north to Judge Wine, and we'll have about 5,670 cases of wine.
You have only one day to do that, right? 4 days of fun and frolic in San Francisco.
You go to the prison 3 times a month? It's like doing life on the installment program.
Well, I do notaries out there, and these guys, the people don't think they have to have notaries, but they've got families, everything else, so.
I just wanted to put a plug in real quick for the Lompoc Recreation Division here with the Children's Christmas Parade, Friday, 6 o'clock, starts on H and Pine and goes all the way to I and Ocean. So let's have some fun this Friday, huh? And if you see somebody in a green suit, red hair resembling some kind of a bad elf, they will go away.
Dirk, you got a new suit? Councilmember Lingle? Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I have on my calendar that I was in Roseville for an NCPA meeting on the 21st. I think that meeting was canceled, but in case I win, the city would have paid my mileage to go there. But I think the meeting was canceled. I'm not sure if I went or not.
I wish to report that I failed to bring my day book. Last week was pretty quiet, but the week before I was somewhere all the time. But honest to goodness, sitting here, I have no idea what I did.
I'll have what you and Bob are having.
Teresa and I met with 2 economic development prospects, and we have another one tomorrow. So we have people coming to us, which is pretty exciting, and looking for some good things there. We had another group in town looking at facilities, and we supplied them with a list. They wanted to go around on their own, so they were out there looking. And there are a number of projects going forward that I'd love to tell you about, but you know how that all works out. So good things, more good things. Again, the parade is going to be amazing. And don't just show up at 6 o'clock. Go out there at 5:30 and walk around and see all the kids and all the lights on all the floats before they start down the street. You will not see another place on earth, except maybe Disneyland, where so many kids are having so much fun. Okay, we are therefore adjourned to the Lompoc City Council meeting, a regular meeting at 7 o'clock p.m. on December 17th, but I bet you there'll be a closed session.